Hey y'all, Collabcast listeners, this is Captain Dave Jackson coming to you from sunny Hendersonville, Tennessee. And we are as sunshine as it can. The bluest skies here in Tennessee. I don't know what it is. It's bluer than Aloha Blue. So that'll give you an idea. It's pretty darn blue. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have with me today Brandon Smith from Missoula, Montana. Brandon and I go back a few years, and he knows the IAOA drill pretty well. And I can't say thank you enough. Brandon, thanks for joining us on Collabcast.
Dave Jackson, it is an honor to be here. I wish I could say the same about our weather up in Montana. It is currently gray, cloudy, rainy, 50 degrees. Fall is here in Montana, so I'm a little envious of your sunshine in Tennessee.
It's sunny, and it's about 78 degrees. It's near perfect. So, yeah. We had to go through a brutal summer to get to it, but we're past all that, and now it's going to be nice. And winter's not too harsh here, and yeah, it's a good place to be. So good for you.
Well, awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely, I am too.
With you and, yeah.
So first off, I want to start out. I want our listeners to learn a little bit about BS. I mean, Brandon Smith. That's my thing. Sorry.
My mom's fault.
So I'm going to start back. Like back before some people even know of you or knew who you were. So you're not a native Montanan, correct?
I am a native Montanan. Born and raised here.
I knew that.
Born and raised here. Went down to Texas for college and then found myself coming right back home.
So Texas college, you played basketball, correct? Was that scholarship?
I did. Have a basketball scholarship.
Was that like NAIA level? What was that?
It was NAIA Division I at a small school, Southwestern University in Texas. Down there, had a blast, loved the weather, the sunshine, the heat, and ended up having a pretty severe knee injury, reconstructive knee surgery, which ended the basketball career relatively early. And found myself coming back home and joining the family business and falling into insurance.
How many years did you play basketball?
I had 2 years in college, but played pretty much from the moment I could walk and touch a basketball. Basketball was my life, my dream, my passion. And from a player to a fan, and I guess now a coach. Love basketball.
Cool. So while 2 years, you got to play 2 years while you're in college at the collegiate level, which is pretty darn good. Very few basketball players, high schoolers can say that. So were you, I'm going to guess, were you a small forward?
I was actually a shooting guard.
Shooting guard. Look at you.
Funny. Here, I'm 6'4". So in high school, I was, it's funny, we had a very tall high school basketball team where I think our starting five were all between 6'2" and 6'9". Wow. And then I go down to Texas and immediately am a minority and one of the shortest guys on the team.
That's basketball for you. But so you're a shooting guard. That's fine.
Yeah.
You got any impressive stats to share from your college years?
Oh, man.
What was your highlight?
Yeah,
highlight game.
Highlight game. Gosh, I was under my high school basketball coach. Really pounded in my head that on any given night, your defense should be phenomenal and solid. You can control every aspect of your defense. You're going to have nights offensively where you struggle holding onto the ball, dribbling, passing, your shots off. Yeah. You're not going to be consistent. But defense should always be at an elite level. And I found myself in college taking a lot of pride in, hey, put me on their stud. I am hard-nosed, competitive, driven. I will shut them down. And remember playing a team, I believe from Oklahoma, and their point guard was just a machine. This short, stocky, just stud. And for me, the night was the night the coach switched me on him to defend him. And I remember that first possession, just not giving him any room and picking his pocket, stealing the ball, going down and scoring on the other end. Just defense. I love playing defense. Loved the team aspect, and I think there's a lot of principles from basketball that apply to life, and ironically, insurance. And so I think basketball really took me far.
So would we have seen you on SportsCenter like at any time?
One time we were my freshman year. We played at Texas Tech. Bobby Knight.
Yep, that's big time.
The highlights on SportsCenter were all of Texas Tech. We just happened to be on the course that night. They
needed a Harlem Globetrotter team to play against. Huh?
Seriously. If I recall, we were down like 7 points at halftime. We were competing and in the game. Wow. And I think a lot of times in sports, you play at the level of your competition. So it wasn't so much that we were playing up. I think Texas Tech was playing down that night. But we ended up losing by 15 or 18. They had their second, third string guys in down the stretch, and our starters were still trying to compete. But we were on SportsCenter. There were zero highlights about our team.
Okay, that's fair. So to squelch all rumors, did you or did you not play during your college years against, one said Grant Botma?
Grant Botma and I did play against each other. I believe it was 2003. Might have been 2004 season. We have to go back and check. But we did play against each other.
And he was with a small school, a college in Arizona. And is this like, that's on your non-conference schedule?
It was a non-conference. Conference. Yep, out of conference game. Yeah, Southwestern Christian University, which is now Arizona Christian in Phoenix, played against Southwestern University out of Texas. And we both think we won the game, so I'm not really sure what happens. It's NAI, you can't really go back and find all those stats.
There's some things. The internet existed back then, so
I'm pretty sure Grant is wrong. I'm pretty sure we won.
Somebody just might end up doing some research and figuring that all out. Maybe that somebody called me. So we'll see. I remember you two having that conversation, and it was a pretty heated debate. I remember that.
No.
I might have been present at the time because you two were like, when you first found out, you two were like, no way. And here you are.
Piecing back together.
Insurance.
Yeah.
Same industry. Working in the same industry, connecting through IAOA. It was just incredible happenstance. So, those things happen. Cool. And no more pickup games, no Achilles problems. You're done with all that?
I have not touched a basketball. So what year was it? Were we Innovation Las Vegas? Was that 2018?
Yeah, 19.
19? A group of us went and played basketball Thursday night before the conference started. And I had a little chip on my shoulder. I felt like I had some things to prove with some of the guys in the group that played basketball. And was there to compete and play hard. And I remember
you do understand they have this arc, this line on the cart, and shooting guards stay behind that line. I know that, right?
I do.
But you went inside and went up for a rebound.
Yep. Ball bounced off the rim. I went in to get it, planted, and popped my Achilles. And spent the night at the hospital, the Vegas ER, which Achilles is low priority in the Vegas ER. And honestly, the
ER
said it wasn't torn. He thought I just strained my calf, and so I would be good in 6 to 8 weeks. Take some ibuprofen. So if you recall, the next morning, opened up the conference, spoke on crutches in probably the most amount of pain I've ever felt. And Grant, who was with me at the hospital, in his mind, he's like, you just strained your calf. Like, how weak are you? And
he's not giving any sympathy. No,
zero grace. So I just suck it up, do the best I can. I mean, in that Las Vegas, from the hotel room to where the conference was a mile walk. And on crutches and in pain. So I came home and a week later felt like that something's not right. So I went into an urgent care here and immediately was told I had a torn Achilles and had surgery just like 3 or 4 days later. And so honestly, I have not touched a basketball competitively since that night. I shoot around in the driveway with my kids. I'm coaching my son's junior high basketball team, but I'm an old man now, Dave, and just cannot play at that level.
Stay outside the arc. That's my advice. Stay outside the arc. I knew that story. So, I'm pretty good at planting these things at times. So, okay. Brandon Smith, all-star shooting guard, college NAIA level, devastating injury, ends your collegiate career.
Yep.
And so you're back in Montana. Then what? Where did you head there?
Came back to Montana and I just needed a job. So when I got back here, I went to a local bank, got a job, wanted to get into the commercial lending, and started off as a teller. Was really the only opening they had. And so I was working the late.
I did not know that part.
Like 4 p.m., like 11 to 4, and then Saturdays. Then I had been there for about 2 months and was up at the lake with a bunch of family. And we're just sitting around and my cousin just happened to ask me, he goes, why aren't you working with us? And my first question was, what does it pay? Because that's really all that mattered at 21.
When you're 20 something.
Yeah. What does it pay? And he goes, well, we should grab lunch. Let's talk. And I said, well, I don't even know what you guys do. Like, I don't even understand insurance. So ironically,
like most people, yeah.
This was pre automatic deposit days for payroll. So 2 days later, an employee who worked with my cousin, one of their employees, came into the bank to deposit their paycheck. And I saw his paycheck and I knew what my paycheck was and thought, why am I not working with them? So a couple days later, went to lunch with my cousin to actually, I believe, a restaurant I've taken you to, Dave, when you came up to Montana. And we're sitting there and I know nothing about insurance. I couldn't have told you, I couldn't have explained to you what a deductible was or how it worked. I had heard the term.
Most people do, they stumble into it.
Yeah, just had no clue. But went back from that lunch to the bank, put in my 2 weeks notice and started in the insurance industry.
Like totally blind.
Totally blind. I failed my property casualty test twice. I just did not understand. Just had no clue. And so I started, and this was the era when like insurance was really getting into marketing or having somebody on your team that's a marketer and welcome kits and referral programs. Like these were all really kind of newer concepts in the independent channel. And so I came on to work in the family business as our marketer. I was going to help with marketing and strategy. And as I was doing that, I began selling just based on relationships. I was selling the products we were offering. I was selling our agency. And so I went and got licensed and really transitioned into property casualty. And I did I did some commercial service work. Just did not enjoy commercial. I was still young and raw. I didn't understand. It was too complicated for my simple mind, and absolutely fell in love with home and auto insurance and the sales process and the diagnosing and coverages and conversations and providing solutions for people. And so for about, I don't know how many years it was, 2004 to 2013, was just producing and just getting after it. And then my cousin and I, we were having a conversation one day about this silo that essentially I was building. And he said, wouldn't it be great if we could figure out how to duplicate what you're doing? And that's really kind of when everything changed for us. My role changed. I became a managing partner in the family business with cousin. And we began to hire, try to duplicate all that we had going. We expanded into other lines of business with Medicare and financial planning. And over the last, almost 13 years now, have just had an opportunity just to create, my passion is development, strategy, find efficiencies, and really help and lead and grow our team. And we've transitioned to new buildings. We've endured hard markets, soft markets, and it's been a wild ride. And here we are, 2013, and 2023, and know that there's different glass ceilings you have to break through in the industry, and we feel like we haven't even began to touch what we're capable of. And I feel like we have something special here, and just trying to figure out what's next for us. What is the barrier to entry? How do we differentiate ourselves from the other players in our community, in our region? Because we have an amazing team and very different approach to the insurance process. And how do we find the opportunity when there's just a lot of negative in the industry right now?
Right. So correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember right, this family agency that you were indoctrinated into, they were primarily commercial, right? You wrote a lot of churches and that. And then when you brought on, that's when you basically launched the personal lines division, right? They weren't doing a ton of that at the time. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, there were some the history of the agency was like my uncle was just a life insurance agent in the early 80s, and then saw opportunity for home and auto. So I actually got appointed with Safeco and did some personal lines insurance, dabbled in that. In the mid 90s, we started writing churches, a lot of ministries, getting into commercial. We brought on Blue Cross Blue Shield and started doing health insurance. And so we were dabbling in a little bit of everything. And then when I came on, it was like pretty much full steam ahead in personal lines. How do we cross-sell the ministries and the churches and then very quickly, personal lines became our largest department. It's where the majority of our revenue was coming from. And that model has changed over time with margins getting tighter, commissions being cut. We've had to grow in other areas. And so now we've got multiple financial planners, a commercial department, our church ministry department. We're doing life, health, Medicare. I mean, really a full service financial firm where we're helping, or financial coaching, counseling, helping people with their budgets and debt elimination plan. And our mission really isn't about selling more insurance. It's really helping our clients be on track to retire with dignity. I believe one of the greatest, if not the greatest, financial threat to Americans is outliving their income, with life expectancy going up and just poor financial habits in terms of saving and investing. And so anytime we can have a conversation with someone and help them find savings in their insurance, we want to have a conversation of where can they reallocate those dollars to either eliminating debt, investing, or preparing for the future.
Mm-hmm. So you brought up debt elimination, and I know that you were very well entrenched with the Dave Ramsey program, the ELP, Endorsed Local Provider Program. What led you into that? I've never asked you this, and I'm curious because what introduced you to that program and got you interested?
Yeah, really kind of started on my own financial journey. If we went back to really the beginning, it probably started when I was 13 years old. For my 13th birthday, my birthday gift was a checkbook, and not what any 13-year-old wants or expects on their birthday.
No.
And in that,
might be better than socks.
True. In that checkbook, my parents showed me I had a balance of $100, and my parents sat down with me the day after my birthday and said, hey, this year you're going to learn how to balance a checkbook, how to write a check, and prepare for expenses coming up in the future. And so they told me that if on my 14th birthday, if my balance in my checking account was $100 or greater, they would match every penny on top of my birthday gift at 14. So for an entire year, I was thinking about that balance and managing that and making sure that I was over $100 so I could receive that really a return on investment. So sure enough, 14th birthday, I had 103.57 in the account. My parents matched that. But then when I was a freshman in high school, my parents had me take out a Capital One student Visa card, so that traveling with sports and the late night runs to McDonald's and the bus stops.
What's in your wallet?
Exactly. I could get food and not have to deal with cash and making sure I always had money. But also I'd be able to start building credit so that I could make purchases later on in life. So 2001, I graduate high school and never worked a real job, a W-2 job in my life, but I was able to go and buy a vehicle because my credit score said I could. And so I remember buying a Ford in 2001, and then having to go find a job and driving in my new vehicle to interviews and get applications because I had a truck or I had a vehicle that I couldn't afford. And so that lifestyle just continued. I went to Texas for school, blew my transmission, put that on a credit card, had student loans, my knee injury, medical debt, and I began searching for answers and was hopped on Google and came across this guy by the name of Dave Ramsey, who seemed to have some pretty practical advice on how to get out of debt and create a budget. And so it kind of took me back to being 13 years old of having a plan. And so I began eliminating my debt, and through that came across Dave Ramsey's ELP program and thought, wait, I'm in insurance. This guy's helped me get my finances under control. Maybe there's opportunity here. So 2008, filled out an application to be an ELP, and the program has changed drastically in the last decade and a half. Went through an extensive interview process and became an ELP in 2009, and just felt like these leads we were getting were on the same wavelength as me in terms of personal finance, and it was a great fit. And we just created systems and strategies on how to maximize every lead we got. It was extremely profitable, and somehow became kind of a poster child for Ramsey in their lead management, and was teaching classes and courses on lead management and best practices and everything we learned. So that was one of the probably the lead sources that really changed the trajectory of our agency, the number of leads we were getting and how well they were performing for us. In more recent years, I've found that we can't rely on outside lead sources we can't be dependent on those lead sources to be the success of our agency. And so we've had to pivot. We've made changes into where our lead generation comes from, how we serve our clients, our own internal verbiage and language, breaking away from, Ramsey. We rode his coattails as long as we could. Still appreciate Dave and his team and a lot of things they do. And we still, honestly, we receive some leads from them in different territories. But we had to pivot into who is Glidewell, who are we, and why do we do business the way we do. And so Dave and his team, they've helped us, they've encouraged us, they've pushed us, they've challenged us. And I don't know that we would be where we are today if it weren't for those early years of the ELP program.
Yeah, from what I know, you are all in on it too, because you did, photo ops with you and Dave and all over your website and so you say poster child, and it was like you were into it for sure. Yeah. That's cool. That's a cool story. So I also know that you along the way have decided to do a little bit of publishing. So you put together a course for producers. How'd that come to be?
one of the things I learned to really love and enjoy in the industry is the public speaking and sharing ideas with others in the industry. And it really started early on with just, I think it was Safeco who came to us and said, hey, how are you guys doing what you're doing? You guys are running a lot of business. And so I remember sharing with them, just telling them our strategy and how we were using text message to communicate with our clients. And that blew their mind. Like, you're using text messaging. Like, and you remember this is early 2000s.
This is back before anybody texted. Yeah.
Right. And all I was doing was I was just a kid in my 20s. That's how I communicated. It just was natural, made sense. So that turned into, hey, will you share at like a marketing symposium, or will you talk to our territory managers on what you're doing so we can help other agents? And that just propelled. And then IAOA came along and we had the opportunity to share just marketing ideas and strategies, and just continued. Well, COVID and the pandemic hit in 2020, and all speaking, coaching opportunities came to a halt. And I thought, you know what, during this 6 to 8 week hiatus we had of this national shutdown, I just started taking my content and putting it into an online course and just putting it out there. And so I have found I just crossed the 19-year threshold in the industry, going on 20 years. And I realized that in the last 20 years, there isn't a whole lot out there for producers on tangible training. There's a lot of courses offered by carriers, which are great. I'm a fan of those, but they do have a little bit of a slant on how to sell more of their product. And yes, you win, but in the end, the carrier's also winning. There's Grant Cardone type programs out there for sales, but they're very broad in sales in general, and they're $20,000, $25,000 programs. Or you can take training from guys in our industry that are, 180 years old, wearing the same suit and tie that they were wearing during the Great Depression, trying to tell you how to sell the way their grandfather told them to sell, and it's just dry and sterile. And so I thought, what if we created a program that was fun, engaging, practical, where you can copy paste? And so that's what I did in 2020. So I created a producer development program, and I had found that statistically, like 92% of agents who get licensed leave the industry within 24 months. And one of the primary reasons they're leaving is they don't have proper training. And I think a lot of us that are agency owners or hiring and trying to train producers, we don't even really know how to train, because we have spent so much time actually doing the work in the industry. And so we hire a new producer, they got the head knowledge on how to pass the exam, they're licensed, and we tell them, great job, go network, go generate referrals. And we don't know how to do that. Like, people don't know what that means. It is such a broad term. And so that's why I created a course to help perpetuate the development of our producers. And there's so many things we could talk about inside of that. Like, how do you build relationships? How do you overcome objections or prospecting? How do you sell on value versus cost? We hear that all the time. Don't sell on price, don't sell on price. But how do you do that? How do you generate a proposal that is going to get a response or lead to a sale? How do we onboard our clients? How do we cross-sell? How do we find referrals? How do we talk about retention? There's so many different topics that aren't taught on the exam that I think a lot of us, Dave, you and I, learned from trial and error over years in the industry. 100%. And so I wanted to take what I learned and put it into a course, into a program, and make it available at a very affordable cost with copy paste templates where you can learn, execute, and get results.
Yeah. So you brought up texting when texting wasn't even texting. But so today in your agency, what would you say is your top 3 tech tools?
Number 1 would be our CRM is huge because of the data we acquire and how we use it in automation. And, those of, you've heard me, Dave, speak enough on this, and others listening to this. I'm a huge fan of automation, but I'm also a huge fan of relationships. And I think too many times we try to replace the relationships with the technology, and we need both. We still need the personal touch. And so I'm very big on automation is there to enhance the relationship, not replace it. So our CRM, and inside of our CRM, obviously there's text capabilities. So I don't know if I can use that as a second one, but I think text messaging is huge just due to response time. Text is phenomenal.
Still the way people want to communicate.
I recently, there's all kinds of studies out there, but if you send an email, and I'm thinking about when we're writing an email to a client, it has to be, correct grammar, punctuation. It's very formal. It's paragraphs, and it takes more time to write. A text message, you can use emojis, typos are acceptable, very quick and blunt to the point. And when you send an email, Dave, the average response time is 27 hours from the person you send an email to. And statistically, only 32% of that email is being read from top to bottom. When you send a text message, average response time is 90 seconds. 99% of it is being read. And it's so much more efficient to get work done, to close a file, to get an answer to a question. So anytime we can send a text message, we are pro text. But if I were to give you a third tech piece, CRM, our text platform, and number 3, I'm going to go with it's really hard to try to eliminate. I mean, there's so much integrated that they all come back to our CRM. I'm going to say our podcast. Podcast, if that counts as a tech, has been just a great tool to enhance relationships, build relationships, and create lead generation.
And this is pretty new for you.
It is. We had a podcast for about 2 years called Dream Again, and it was a ton of fun. We had guests from all over the globe on there, but we were very broad in topics, and there really wasn't a focus, and it wasn't going anywhere for us, which doesn't always necessarily have to be the case. But we were investing a lot of time, effort, energy, marketing, just not seeing anything in return. So we shut down our podcast for about 6 to 9 months, rebranded, and now have a podcast where we're 10 episodes in, where we are focusing on our local community. It's called the Missoula Podcast. And all of our guests are either ideal clients or influencers in the community. And so very strategic on our follow-up post episode dropping and following up with that lead. Now that a relationship is built and we've created some awareness for them, the door's been open, and it's a warm lead to quote rather than cold calling. And so it's been phenomenal. Based on our definition of phenomenal, it's been a feel good. But again, we're 10 weeks in, and time will tell. But definitely seeing some results and traction from Pod.
Cool. So if our listeners wanted to hear your podcast just to get a feel for it, not that they're local in Missoula, where would they go find it other than Google?
Yeah, and you don't have to be local. I think there's the content that just the guests are all local or used to be local or from here. The lessons learned, the value, what they've done with their business is the principles apply to everybody. TheMissoulaPodcast.com is our website, TheMissoulaPodcast.com, and all over, wherever you listen to podcasts, it's on all the platforms.
Yeah, cool. That's very cool. There's been in our industry, I would say, a bit of an explosion with new podcasters. But I like the approach that you're taking with doing it local. There's a few of our IAOA members who are doing the same thing, and a few of them are doing it just in niches. So they may, they're an agency may do insurance in niches, so their podcasts are in that. So those listeners could be anywhere in the U.S. primarily because that's where they do insurance business. Yep. But in a niche, not necessarily in a locality or geographics. So there's a lot of ways podcasts can make you business, or just provide value to people. If you're not looking to do business, just, build relationships and followers, and it's a cool thing. I'm having fun with it doing Collabcast, so good for you. That's good. It's good to hear you doing that. So what's new for GIIG? What's on the horizon? What's going to be new? What's the next biggest, greatest thing? Are you going to add a mortgage division? Are you going to add a real estate division? Are you sticking to mostly financial and insurance? Where do you see you guys going?
Those are the exact conversations we're having now. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had our annual executive team retreat, and we've thrown out the ideas of mortgage. We've talked about bringing on CPA. But what we're finding right now, just in this current climate of economy, hard market, underwriting restrictions, guidelines, there's still always going to be a need for a trusted advisor, for somebody local, an expert, a practitioner. And so we're working on, hey, what is our barrier to entry? What is it about us that differentiates ourselves from the other, that gives us a competitive advantage? What's the value proposition? And so we're just starting to dabble in some ideas of, hey, rather than telling businesses what they should do, how can we come in and help them do what they need to do? And it may cost us time, money, administrative costs, sweat equity. But we're a big fan of culture. And rather than telling businesses, hey, here's how to have a great culture, change your culture, what can we do to help them with that culture? Can we provide value to, say we have a commercial client? Can we provide tools and resources for the financial coaching, budgeting? I think most employers right now, one of their biggest focuses is their employees and employee retention. And there's this trend of the quiet quitters. And so what can we do to help create the value where people want to stay employed? How can we make them? I know you had Grant on a couple of weeks ago, and he wrote his book, Culture Course. There's a lot in that, or his book starts out about the paycheck, and he has Culture Course. Those things are all great for our business, but what can we do to help implement those in other businesses because you're a client or customer of ours? And so we're just looking at, how do we genuinely serve our community, make sure they're on track financially where they can retire with dignity, and then hopefully still some policies along the way, obviously. But we're always looking at doing something new and innovating, and just the industry as a whole. We're in a weird spot right now, and that means there's opportunity. It will always be there. You just got to go out and find it, and that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, that leads me into my next question, which I didn't even know I was going to ask, but you kind of leaned into it. AI. Are you guys looking at AI to utilize it?
Yeah, I feel like AI is the answer to everything right now. You can just say AI and then mic drop and walk out of the room.
Whatever works. Yeah, it does everything.
So are we using it? Yes. To what capabilities? I don't know that anybody really knows what all the capabilities are or how to use it. So
it's a little early in the game.
Yeah, but no, we're using it in cleaning up, automations, communications, clear call to actions, just research. It's fascinating. I feel like if I ever have like Chat GPT up on my screen and somebody walks in my office, I feel like, is it because I'm cheating the system? Like I didn't really write that email. It was Chat GPT who wrote it for me. So there's still some, I love it. It's fascinating, but at the same time, it's really scary. What's going on in the world and what is truth and what is real. But no, we're dabbling, I think, is probably what my most honest answer would be.
Yeah, that's probably everybody's answer, because right now there's no track to run on, at this point. But a lot of folks are trying to figure that out. So eventually we'll maybe get some direction. So that's cool. Last question before we wrap things up. These days I'd be remiss to not ask, how are you guys reacting to this insurance hard market that we're in?
I think there's two trains of thought that I hear most commonly, and it's either focus on retaining or growing. And as much as we preach retention, I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth right now. And so we have gone away from really publicly with our team tracking and talking about sales and revenue and goals and commissions. Our big focus right now is leads and referrals and cross-selling and generating more opportunity. And we're celebrating the referrals, the internal referrals, the going out off the street and approaching somebody and bringing in a new lead. So our focus right now is on growth. Our goals are 20% growth and 20% profitability, while trying to maintain the culture and company atmosphere that we have. But the big focus through this market for us is on growth and just finding those opportunities and then using our value proposition, our barriers to entry to help propel that growth.
So related to that, is agency culture more of a challenge today?
Good question for Grant. He's the culture expert. Mm-hmm. I think there's changes. We're seeing changes in ours. You know, I'm not the young kid anymore that I was for several years in the industry. We've got a team of, in their mid-20s, early 30s, and they think and act very different than the way I did. And I acted and thought very different than and so it is impacting culture, and it creates that tension of, being in the office or remote work and relationships and socializing. It's different. And I don't think different is necessarily a bad thing. I think when we hear the term different, we either go to, I don't like that. That's bad. It's change. It's uncertainty. But there's also a personality type like myself that I love different, new and unexpected, and you just go for it and you jump in, and the eternal optimist. And the truth is, in the middle, we all agree on that different means no longer the same. And our industry right now is no longer the same. This next generation coming in is no longer the same. And so it's going to impact culture, but that doesn't have to be a negative. It's just how we adapt and adjust to the culture war we're facing.
Yeah. Do you think we're seeing the next generation of carriers enter the market, and the legacy carriers will have had their day in the sun?
I don't know. I think it's really difficult to start a new company right now and to be a carrier. I tend to wonder if we're going to see, just in the next handful of years, just a handful of national carriers due to the acquisitions and
consolidation.
I mean, we may see some regional carriers start up, but in terms of the big, maybe a poor analogy, what's going on in the NCAA right now with the conferences, I think we're going to see the Power 5 carriers or however many, and then everything else is just going to try to scrape by. Obviously there's an ebb and flow to the industry, and it will change and come back, and there will be new carriers in the future. But for this next season, I don't know that we've seen the worst of it yet. It feels like it's going to get worse before it gets better still. Don't know what that looks like, but I think for the carriers and even the agents that are in a position to capitalize and acquire, I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the next 24 to 36 months.
Yeah, I agree. Just today, give you an example, just today in our IAOA group, it's been going on for a little bit, but about a month or so ago, what was, for some agencies, their number one carrier, Kemper Preferred, they were their number one agency in Arizona, in other states, in certain areas. They announced a month ago that they were leaving the property and casualty side of the business, personal line side of the business. And today, we're posting emails about, here's part of our strategy from Kemper. Part of our strategy is effective next week, October 1st, 1% new business, 1% renewal commission rates. that's obviously just a move out strategy. It's not going to be long term, obviously, because they already announced they're leaving, and it'll be phased in by state. But my comment on that was, it just goes to show you how fickle this industry can be. I've been in a long time, and Kemper just 10 years ago, not that long, was number one in many agencies. And today they're not, and tomorrow they're gone. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So
here's how that happens.
Here's my hot take. I wonder if we are no longer in the place where we have the carrier relationships. That seems to be going away, where now it's carrier investment of using each other. The relationships aren't there like they were a decade ago. And the trust with carriers and pulling out and cutting commissions, like,
I can't disagree with that.
I think the term carrier relationship is going away, and it's becoming a carrier investment or a carrier vendor. It's really hard to trust and have a relationship when the carpet's being pulled out and underwriting won't even listen to you. I remember, Dave, you remember when we were like, had a risk, we're trying to write, and it's just not fitting. We pick up the phone and call underwriting and talk to them, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I see that. We can do that." That's not a thing anymore. It's very black and white.
It hasn't been for a while either.
That is not a relationship. That's not how relationships work. Relationships are give and take, not only take. And I think that's going to be the demise of some carriers. So
yeah. I was at a conference in Indianapolis here about 3 weeks ago. One of the speakers was not in the industry, but he just talked about disruption. And some of the examples he gave were electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles. And he said, do you know the growth of EVs? It's a northeast track. There will be a day where gasoline is not used in vehicles. That will come. I mean, I don't know anybody who can dispute that. So what's happening as a trail to that? Tesla Insurance is the number one valued company in the world, more than Apple, more than Google, more than Amazon. And they are in now to Tesla Insurance. So you buy a Tesla car, you get your Tesla insurance. It's a package deal. You don't get to sign your initials that say I decline. You don't. It's included. So, those are the kind of avenues that we're going. And so when the EVs take over and they want that big, how many trillion piece of the auto insurance pie, they're going to take a big chunk with them. And I'd have to agree with him to a certain extent, except that with my age, I probably won't see, how it trends too much, how much of that piece of the pie goes. And from the consumer side,
the reason Tesla is doing what they're doing and growing and people have no issue with it is because they trust. They trust Tesla. They've had positive
experience. And they make it easy. And they make it very easy.
Affordable?
I don't know.
We don't trust. And that's the point. It's not about price. It's about value. We on the insurance side, we don't trust the carriers right now. And because of that, our clients don't necessarily trust us. They trust us as individuals, but the business, the rate increases. So it creates peace of mind when you can go buy a vehicle and your insurance is included. And so we got to get back to getting our clients, getting our carriers. We need a trust relationship. And that is what is hurting us more than rates in the hard market.
All right. I agree. Well, I think about that almost every day. I've been in this industry 44 years. I've seen it come, and you talked about ebb and flow. There's ebb, and this is maybe more than most industries out there. And there's hundreds, tons of them. But this one ebbs and flows on an extreme basis, like very high highs and very low lows. We're at a very low low right now in terms of volatility.
Dave, you tell me, because it was before my time. I have heard that in like the late 80s, there was a hard market that was equal to or worse than what we're facing right now.
It was in where it's always, it's not static. It depends on where you are.
Okay.
This is a state-run industry, so some states react differently than others. But in the states that I was, this one is harder than it was in the 80s for me.
Looking back in the 80s, though, in that hard market, what happened where we were okay? How we got out of it? What did it take? What can history teach us about what's coming?
So here's my synopsis, and I'm only going to spend 30 seconds on it. In the 80s, that's back when you saw 16 and 8% mortgage loan interest rates. Okay? Not 3 and 4 or 5 like we've seen recently. 16 to 18%. So when you borrow money, the people lending money were making bundles of money in interest, although the default rate was fairly high. But anyway, so that seems to trail. Now we've hit a soft market, and now we're coming really hard into a hard market, and it's just flipped. Interest rates are coming back up, and so I don't see it getting easier today than it will be tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be harder, and I don't know how long it'll last. Another year, 2 maybe. I don't know. I don't have that crystal ball, but a lot of it has to do with the economy. Unfortunately, it's economical overall. It's political. Unfortunately, again, look what's happening in California. They just had to have their governor sign a bill to state that they need insurance reform because the guy in charge of insurance couldn't get it done. So, and the funny thing, here's another example. I talked to Florida agents, and they say, hard market? What the hell are you talking about? We've been in a hard market for 20 years. Right. You don't know what a hard market is. And so about 23 years in Florida, because when Hurricane Andrew hit and then all the carriers pulled out, the business there just flipped on its head. And so they got a whole different ball of wax. So anyway, we can talk about this for hours.
Up here, Idaho, like average homeowners premiums a couple of years ago were like $400 a year.
Yeah.
And then 30% rate increase comes along and rates are only $520 a year. Like,
right.
It's still, so no, you're right. It's very dependent on where you live and state specific, but it will be interesting to see how we as an industry innovate from this and adapt to the changes that are coming. Because
what I like about it is, and I'm like you, I embrace technology. What I like about it is there will be players sitting out there who think I can disrupt and I can fix that. And I'm hoping those folks try as hard as they can to fix it and come in. And I don't know about replacing our legacy carriers, but working with them or transitioning with them to bring us to a more stable economy. The ebbs and flows you talk about, they've been in the industry for as long as I remember. And that was the one thing I disliked in my captive agency years about ebb and flow. Just get, steady Eddie. I can take a 3% increase every single year, but I can't take, a 12% and then next year a 1% reduction. No, don't do that to me. And it's just confusing and it's unstable. It's, in my opinion, not economically sound. And it's just what I call knee-jerk react type business. And does our industry need to be that way? I don't think so. But I'm not saying I have the solution or I have the answer. I'm not that smart. But I'm hoping there are folks out there who will be brave enough to attempt it and say, I think I can do it, and are at least going to try. And if they do, more power to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Brandon, I appreciate having you on today.
Thank you,
brother. Good luck with the Missoula podcast. We'll listen in.
Thank you.
And give it a listen. And appreciate that. Say hi to Joy and the kids, and we'll be in touch.
We'll do.
Soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave.
This is Captain Dave signing out, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Collabcast with IAOA with Captain Dave Jackson. Production and distribution by Podsquad.fm, Riverside.fm, and Spotify for podcasters. Special thanks to Little Dog Social Media, Terry Champion, and all our guests and listeners. If you're an independent insurance agency owner, please subscribe to our podcast weekly. You can also request to join our agency owner exclusive Facebook group, IAOA, or Insurance Agency Owners Alliance at IAOA.com. Captain Dave Jackson signs out from sunny Hendersonville, Tennessee.